If that camera hadn't been recording, no one would have believed what happened inside that quiet little house on the outskirts of Cedar Grove, a small American suburb where nothing dramatic ever seemed to happen. A father insisted their family dog needed to be put down. A mother insisted he was wrong. And the truth, unbelievable, undeniable, only surfaced because of a 10-minute video that changed everything. Before we continue, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a story like this one. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. The morning began the same way as so many others. Lately raised voices breaking the fragile quiet. Jason slapped the kitchen counter so hard, the cereal box toppled over, scattering flakes across the floor. His jaw was clenched, his face tense, his eyes locked on the big brown dog lying near the hallway. Cooper lifted his head, confused, as if unsure why he was being singled out. Across the room, little Harper sat in her high chair, her tiny hands resting on the tray as she watched everything with innocent curiosity. Jason wasn't calm. Not today. He said he wasn't waiting anymore. The dog was leaving. He'd already spoken to someone who could pick Cooper up that week. He said he was done pretending everything was fine. The dog kept staring at the baby in a way that made him nervous. And he wasn't willing to take a chance. Not with his daughter. Emily gently lifted Harper out of the chair, holding her close as she tried to steady her own voice. She told Jason he was wrong. Cooper had never hurt anyone. Not once. She said Jason was misinterpreting things, that Cooper seemed curious, maybe even protective, but not dangerous. Jason didn't want to hear it. He said a dog doesn't protect anyone. A dog is a dog. Instincts can't be trusted. Cooper stayed completely still on the floor, though his ears twitched each time the voices rose. His eyes followed Harper, not with hunger, not with tension, but with something far softer than either parent had been willing to see. Emily felt a tightness build inside her chest. Something deep and quiet inside her whispered that Cooper wasn't the threat here. He was trying to show them something. Jason only saw a risk. Then Emily said something she hadn't planned to say aloud. If Jason was so certain Cooper was dangerous, then they should test it. Leave the dog and baby together for 10 minutes and record everything. If Cooper showed even the slightest bit of aggression, she would let him go without another word. Jason froze. Then he looked almost relieved. This was his chance to prove he was right. He agreed immediately. 10 minutes. Just the dog and the baby on the living room floor. Emily felt a knot form in her stomach as she set Harper down on a soft blanket. The baby let out a squeal of pure delight when she spotted Cooper and reached her tiny hand toward him. Cooper didn't approach. He stayed where he was, watching her carefully, his head low, his body still. The small red recording light blinked on from the camera on the shelf. Everything was ready. Jason and Emily walked to the kitchen, leaving the baby and the dog alone in the living room. Their phones streamed the camera feed live, and both parents leaned over the screen, barely breathing. Harper patted her hands against the blanket, giggling at something only she understood. Cooper lifted his head slightly, but remained down. Jason muttered that this was exactly what dogs did before causing trouble. Emily kept her eyes on Cooper's face. Something in his expression didn't match the danger Jason imagined. Neither of them had any idea what truth was waiting for them on the other side of those 10 minutes. On the phone screen, Harper leaned forward to reach her stuffed bear. Cooper shifted a paw, then another, almost timidly, as if he didn't want to startle her. His eyes followed every one of her movements. Jason whispered that Cooper was waiting for the right moment to pounce. Emily shook her head, though her heart still thudded heavily. Harper pressed the bear to her face and let out a tiny hum of contentment. She rolled to her side, unaware she was inching closer and closer to Cooper. Cooper slowly pushed himself up onto his elbows. His tail didn't wag. His whole body looked tense, but not angry. He looked as if he was trying to understand what was happening. Then something caught his attention. His ears perked up. His eyes shifted sharply toward the right side of the living room. Both parents leaned closer to the phone, confused. Harper didn't notice anything. She continued kicking her feet, squealing softly. But Cooper wasn't watching her anymore. His eyes stayed glued to one direction, focused on something the camera couldn't fully capture. Jason went silent. He didn't like the intense concentration suddenly appearing on the dog's face. He said this was exactly what terrified him. Dogs attacked without warning. Emily kept watching, her breath shallow, trying to understand each of Cooper's tiny movements. Harper grabbed her stuffed bear again, losing her grip and dropping it. It bounced once and rolled toward the far wall. She followed it, crawling a few small inches. Cooper rose fully now, slowly, with deliberate caution. His head angled again toward that same corner. Then a soft mechanical hum drifted into the microphone. Emily recognized it instantly. And so did Cooper. The robotic vacuum. The one they kept under the side table. The one that clicked loudly whenever it turned. The one that had yanked Cooper's fur more than once and terrified him. So badly, he usually avoided it entirely. And now it was rolling straight toward the baby. The vacuum's wheels spun as it crossed the carpet, bumping lightly as it changed direction. Harper's face lit up with excitement. She clapped her hands, thinking it was some new moving toy coming to play with her. But Cooper didn't think it was a toy. His entire body stiffened. The fur along his back bristled. His stance narrowed. His eyes locked onto the vacuum with unblinking focus as it moved closer and closer. Jason stared at the phone, unsure what he was seeing. He expected the dog to snap at Harper. Instead, Cooper stared at the vacuum with a look Jason couldn't explain. Harper reached out her tiny hand, ready to touch the moving machine. The vacuum kept coming, and Cooper took a slow, serious step forward. He approached Harper, but not quickly, not aggressively. Every step was steady, deliberate, almost cautious. His eyes never left the vacuum. Harper didn't even notice. She was laughing as the machine nudged the edge of her blanket. Jason gripped the edge of the counter with both hands. This was the moment he expected everything to go wrong. He expected Cooper to lose control, but that wasn't what he saw. He saw a dog placing his body between a baby and something he clearly didn't trust. Emily pressed her hand over her mouth, her heart pounding hard. She'd seen Cooper run from that vacuum countless times. She'd seen him bark or whine whenever it startled him. But instead of retreating like he always had, he was now walking toward it. Harper leaned forward, stretching her hand toward the spinning brush at the front of the machine. Cooper lowered his head and used his shoulder to gently block her tiny hand. Emily gasped softly. Jason's eyes widened. The vacuum bumped into Cooper's leg. Cooper didn't flinch. His chest rose and fell with one deep breath. He didn't growl. He didn't bare his teeth. He wasn't scared anymore. He was ready. Harper giggled and patted his back, thinking he was just being playful. Cooper stayed planted, keeping himself between her and the machine. The vacuum hummed louder as it tried to maneuver around him, but Cooper shifted again, blocking its path with the side of his body and nudging it away. Jason whispered that he didn't understand what he was seeing anymore. This wasn't a dog preparing to hurt a child. This was a dog intentionally putting himself in harm's way for her. The vacuum pushed forward again. This time, Cooper dipped his head suddenly and shoved it hard with his nose. The machine jolted to the right, spinning halfway around. Its wheels spun wildly for a moment before it redirected and rolled away toward the far corner. Harper squealed with excitement, clapping as if she were watching a show performed just for her. Cooper didn't take his eyes off the vacuum until it fully disappeared under the side table again. Only then did he turn back to Harper, sit down beside her, and curl his body protectively around her small frame. Harper snuggled against him without fear, resting her head on his fur. Jason stared at the screen like the world had stopped spinning. Emily wiped her eyes, trying to stay composed. She whispered that Cooper wasn't watching Harper to hurt her. He was watching her to protect her. He knew the vacuum moved unpredictably. He knew it bumped things. He knew it had hurt him before, and he knew it could hurt her too. Jason didn't argue. For the first time, he had nothing to say. Harper lay against Cooper happily, unaware that her entire little world had just shifted in a way she'd never remember, but her parents would never forget. And still, the timer kept running. The timer on the phone continued to count down, each second adding weight to the silence that filled the kitchen. Only a few minutes remained, but neither Jason nor Emily could pull their eyes from the screen. Something had shifted inside both of them, something quiet, heavy, impossible to ignore. Jason watched the feed without blinking. His hands, which had been clenched moments earlier, now rested loosely at his sides. There was no anger left in his face, only realization and regret. On the screen, Harper scooted closer and pressed her cheek against Cooper's side again. Cooper lifted his head slightly, scanning the living room, checking corners, checking shadows, checking the doorway, checking everything. He wasn't confused. He wasn't anxious. He wasn't unpredictable. He was working. He curved his body around her like he'd done this 1,000 times before. Like protecting her wasn't a new responsibility. It was simply part of who he was. Emily whispered under her breath that Cooper wasn't acting strange. He wasn't acting out of fear or uncertainty. He was behaving like someone who understood he had a job, and he refused to fail at it. Jason lowered his eyes, unable to argue anymore. That truth had become too clear, too real, too painful to deny. Harper giggled and reached for one of Cooper's ears, tugging lightly. Cooper didn't flinch. He turned his head toward her, blinked slowly, and let out a low, soft exhale. Not a growl, not discomfort, just a calm acknowledgement. On the phone screen, every tiny detail was captured. Harper's quiet laughter, Cooper's steady breathing, the way he inched slightly closer anytime Harper leaned too far in one direction, as if making sure she never toppled forward. It was obvious now. Cooper wasn't waiting for the chance to hurt her. He was making sure nothing else could. For a long moment, neither parent spoke. Then Jason's voice broke the silence, barely more than a whisper. He said he didn't know how he'd been so wrong. He thought he was protecting his daughter, but all he'd done was push away the one creature who'd been protecting her all along. Emily didn't respond. She didn't need to. The video said everything. Harper picked up her stuffed bear again and held it out toward Cooper. He sniffed it gently and placed one paw on the edge of her blanket, as if keeping her from rolling off. Harper laughed harder, pushing the bear against his chest like she was giving him the most important present in the world. Cooper stayed perfectly still, letting her climb, push, tug, explore. Never a moment of frustration, never a hint of impatience. His eyes flicked repeatedly toward the side table, waiting to see if the vacuum was coming back. He was ready for it. Jason dragged the back of his hand across his face. Seeing the truth hurt more than any argument he and Emily could have had. He realized he'd nearly taken away the one presence in the house that didn't need to be told how to protect. Harper. The timer ticked down. One final minute. Cooper lowered his head beside Harper's tiny foot, his breathing slow and steady. Harper kicked playfully, and he didn't pull away. He simply watched her, quiet and attentive, like her every sound mattered. The last few seconds flashed across the screen. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A soft beep filled the kitchen. Jason closed his eyes. Everything was different now. Emily didn't wait. She practically sprinted out of the kitchen, her steps fast and unsteady. She rounded the corner into the living room and froze for half a second. Just long enough for her heart to melt. There was Harper, sitting in the middle of the blanket, smiling at absolutely nothing in particular. Her hands tapped against Cooper's thick fur, like she'd found her favorite place in the world. Cooper lifted his head when Emily appeared, his gentle eyes warm, his tail giving a slow, hopeful wag. Emily knelt beside them, scooping Harper into her arms and hugging her with a tightness that came from fear, dissolving into overwhelming relief. Tears filled her eyes again, but these weren't the terrified kind. These were the grateful kind. The kind that come when you realize you trusted the right thing. She stroked Cooper's back with a trembling hand and whispered, "Thank you," her voice shaking. Jason entered the room moments later, walking slowly, almost cautiously. His pride weighed heavily on him, but the truth pulled him forward. He looked from Harper to Cooper and back again. Then he looked at the dog as if seeing him for the first time, not as a threat, not as a risk, not as something unpredictable. As their daughter's protector. The only thing that had stood between her and something that could have hurt her. Not a bite, not a snarl, not a single wrong move, only protection. Jason crouched beside Cooper. For a long moment, no words came. Then he placed a hand gently on the dog's head and whispered that he was sorry. He admitted he'd been wrong. The words had weight, but they were honest. Cooper sniffed his hand once, then leaned into it in acceptance without hesitation, a forgiveness without condition. Harper giggled and reached for Cooper again. She pressed her palm to his cheek. Cooper closed his eyes and let out a long, peaceful sigh, like he finally knew the family understood. From that day on, no one in that house looked at Cooper the same way again. Jason stopped seeing a threat. He started seeing the truth he'd ignored for too long. He never mentioned giving Cooper away again. Not in anger, not in fear, not even in passing. Because once you see the truth so clearly, you can't pretend it isn't real. Every night after that, Cooper slept right outside Harper's door, ears perked, body relaxing only when she was safe. He didn't need instructions. He didn't need praise. Protecting her was simply woven into who he was. And the family never forgot the moment they realized the dog they almost gave up was the one who had been keeping their daughter safe long before they ever noticed. Some truths are quiet. Some protectors are overlooked. But when the camera finally shows you what's real, you don't forget it. If you enjoyed this story, let us know in the comments. Would you have trusted the dog? Or would you have sent him away? Tell us your thoughts below. And if this story touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for watching.